All right, you guys, you women and men. My name is Dr. Cheryl Meyer, and I am driving, so I am using a headset, and I'm just going to talk to you about the most amazing experience. One of the most amazing in my life. I mean, it always is. Every new day is like, it builds on the last. So it's just beautiful. And I want this for everybody. And so I have a long road in front of me. Yesterday, I was in Memphis, Tennessee. And we're going to talk about the insights from Memphis. Memphis is also a city in Egypt. So I help people navigate through their spiritual awakening. And I look at all of life as a spiritual awakening. And I didn't realize, I heard someone else say the other day that they help people navigate through their spiritual awakening. So thank you for that. A guy named Victor, I didn't know that. I mean, we're doing it the same. But anyway, it's great that I brought up a guy, because what I'm going to talk to you today about, I was just about to record an audio for myself to record all of the amazing insights, like downloads I got. I call them like downloads from heaven, pennies from heaven, more than that, diamonds, There's ways that you can be attuned to the divine. And because we all come from that place. I found out from my relatives, I'm part Choctaw Indian, but I'm registered Cherokee. So I don't know if my lineage, they registered with the Cherokee once they left the Trail of Tears, but I won't go into all of that. I just trust that we come from the divine. We come from divine love. And you don't have to define that right now. You can just know that we are part of that. Even if you don't know that, we have access to those realms because we are souls in a human body. And I don't mean to just go access those realms willy-nilly to get stuff for yourself, because you can go into the spiritual realms for your egotism too, because your flesh, if you want to call it your flesh, it wants what it wants when it wants it. And so there's a practice of discipline. There's also a practice of freedom and allowing yourself to soar to the heights, but don't get burned by the sun, like that old Greek myth where the man wanted to reach the sun so badly, they made wings, but the wings were glued on with wax, as far as I remember, because he was trying to take a shortcut or something. And so once he got close to the sun, it burned the wings loose and he fell to the ground and he had a great fall. So there are ways we can do that. This is why I feel like we all have gifts in this world. And this is one of my callings, to help people navigate, because I've had to navigate my own spiritual awakening. I'm still doing it right now. And so I was praying and asking God, asking divine love, absolute infinite beingness, the being. Wow, there's a hawk right there beside me that was taken off the ground. I'm in these beautiful Ozark mountains, and the trees are all these different beautiful colors around me. But I was asking divine, well, what all do I say? What all am I allowed to say? Because I was going to make a personal note to myself, and I got all of it. You're allowed to release all of it. I can use my own discernment, but so I trust that whoever this is going to, it's going to for a reason. And I'm asking you, inviting you now to hold this space sacred, because these truths aren't got by easily. They're got by through much pain and many tears. And I mean, don't feel sorry for it. I'm just saying, it's like the cordial that Lucy had in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that healed people. It was like cordial from the fireflies or some mountain, and Aslan or Father Christmas, Santa Claus, whoever gave, depending on the cartoon movie or the movie or the book, I can't remember in the book if Aslan gave them the gifts. I think Aslan did, yeah. Gave them the gifts. When they gave the three children the gifts, because Edmund had already betrayed and was walking a different path at that moment. But when they were given these gifts, Aslan said, Lucy, many men died going up this mountain to get this cordial, so only a drop can heal people. All right, so I've had to face all kinds of deaths in order to get this information. And I just want you to know that, just so when you're discouraged and you think your road is difficult, that you see it can be difficult for all of us. And it's always worth it, because imagine this is a magic cordial that Lucy had that healed people that were near death. You know what I mean? So it brings life back to people. All of the many deaths that you die, when Jesus says, and I always speak of a universal kind of Christ, not to water down Christ in any way, shape, or form. It's just to understand, I believe, as Christ lived and spoke and walked this earth, he lived it for all people to have access to, if they choose. So when he's speaking, there's this reel on Insta that Bob Marley, and that I saw, and I think I have it in one of my highlights because I saved it. I reposted it and I saved it. Is he said that all of his songs, he's singing about higher consciousness, and it just went deep in my heart. I love songs, but every word that Christ spoke, every miracle he did, every action, every glance that he would make towards a person, he did in a way teaching higher consciousness, because he came from that higher consciousness and he was aligned with that higher consciousness. So he lived it. And there's another verse that says, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. So be free indeed. What does it mean to be free? It doesn't mean go do whatever you want. If I was drunk right now and driving on this road and I felt free because my inhibitions were blocked, from the alcohol, it wouldn't be me being free. It would be me being intoxicated and me being reckless, because I wouldn't be creating a safe environment for the other people or myself on the road. So our flesh can think this is freedom, because I wouldn't feel my inhibitions at that time, and I feel pretty loose and free on the level of the flesh. But we're souls, and we're living in a human body. If you think of incarnation, well, think of the word in Spanish, carne asada is meat, cooked asada style, or I don't remember what asada is, but so we're incarnated, we're put in flesh, we're souls in a flesh body. And it doesn't mean our brains, even our brains are meant to run our lives. Our brains are a beautiful instrument, but we're not meant to be locked in and stuck in our minds. And our flesh is a beautiful instrument. This body that we have is a beautiful instrument, but it's not meant to rule our lives. So when Christ said, in a higher consciousness way, he said, pick up your cross daily and follow me. Follow isn't even the word follow in Greek. I studied Greek for 2 years in college because I had to take a language and I wanted to understand what Christ was saying. But you can understand what Christ is saying when you quiet your outside world and get into your heart and quiet all the voices around you, and you learn the mystic way, the Holy Spirit or whatever you can be taught what the higher consciousness is teaching you. It's anyway, when he says take up your cross every day, the word follow means join me, walk with me, abide with me, live in this aligned place with perfect love. This righteousness, seek after righteousness, is just right wayness. not like right and wrong and good and bad and up and down and all what we experience in duality. It's just, it's clicked in with love. If I wanted to play a beautiful record and I just took the record player arm and scratched it back and forth and didn't put it in the groove to hear the song, if you're not, if you don't know about records, then just look one up and see how records work. I encourage you so you can understand this analogy, because I was in a meditation and one of my friends, Elliot Smith, is passed away, and somehow, and I'm not talking at all about seeking the dead. We could try to do that with our flesh, and I don't recommend that at all, because that, I'm just not recommending that. But I was having a vision, and I was in earnestness. It's kind of like I was praying to God, and I got this sense that it was my friend Elliot speaking to me somehow. I don't know how. I won't define all of that. But I asked, well, can't God just shake us and put us back in alignment, with perfect love? Because I always want to be aligned with perfect love, because that's how I won't hurt people and I won't hurt myself. We experience the pain in our childhood, and we experience whatever pain we've caused other people that we regret. Like Elliot has a song, it's like, I never meant to hurt you. And he laughed in my vision. He laughed, and when I asked, can't we just be shaken? And he started singing this Big Star song, 13. I have a teaching about that song, but I got it anyway. And so it goes, come inside, well, it's okay, and I'll shake you. It's about, won't you walk me home from school? So Big Star, in a way, is a band, and they're helping us walk through the spiritual awakening, because the man in the story, the boy in the story, asks the girl, there's a dance coming up, can I walk you home from school, like the school of life? Home is where our soul came from. Our citizenship is not here on this earth. Our citizenship in heaven. And I have a son. And I won't go into more sometimes, but when he was little, when he was 4 or 5, he was just like, Mommy, don't you know we're all kings and queens in heaven? And he hadn't gone to school yet. He was always around me. I was really protective, not trying to be controlling, but really protective of my little ones, and I hadn't taught him that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How do you know we're kings and queens? He's like, Mommy, at night I'd go into heaven and God speaks to me, and we're kings and queens there in heaven. And so that is our calling. We have a high calling. We have a high calling. You don't have to believe me. Start knowing this. Start living this. There's lies we believe from the programming of our childhood. And believe me, because I know those lies, because I lived them for so long. And it was really painful to be attached to the spirit of rejection and this idea that I always had to be rejected. And it's really boring to be attached to that. I'm telling you. I'm sure you know it on some level. Elliot knew it. Elliot, my friend Elliot Smith, a musician, like the song that he got an Academy Award nomination. I met him right before the Academy Awards, before he like took off in that direction, just because people knew him more after that. But he wrote a song called Miss Misery. It's like, do you miss me? Do you miss misery? The misery of my own life, and the misery of your life, and the misery of us together, when we stay in this misery that we know together. We have a resonance. Elliot and I had a resonance. I felt so much love from that man, and so much love towards that man, because we both knew really deeply what it was to feel like neglect or rejection or whatever. But it doesn't mean you have to stay in that place. If we are all kings and queens and souls, or he called me Angelina, his little angel. Don't go home, Angelina. Stay with me, hanging around in this lost and found. Well, the hanging is like a joke because, and it's a true thing, but it's like dying. It, it's like a strangling of your fleshly self that is not meant to be the ruler in your life. You're meant to live as a true king or a queen. Once a king or queen in Narnia, always a king or queen in Narnia. These quote fairy stories can teach you about the real essence of your real self, your soul self. We come from a higher realm. We come as kings and queens. And we're meant to be free and live in alignment, back in the groove again with love. But how we do that is to learn to die to the parts of us that we're meant to let go of. And die is just a form of detachment. It's a form not of detachment like, oh, I have apathy, I'm going to be detached from everything because I'm a hard ass, and if there's any kids around, then sorry, but is because I'm this hard-hearted person and I don't care about nothing. It's not that. It's this art. It's this beauty. It's beauty. Dostoevsky, the writer of, Eliot introduced me to him more. I had already read him before that, and I loved him. I felt a resonance with Dostoevsky. But he wrote in The Brothers Karamazov, he wrote in that story, he wrote, in the end, the world will be saved by beauty. This is such a beautiful path that you're called to, and the beautiful path that we're called to, that I'm called to, that you're called to. I'm your sister and your brother on this path, I'm both, because we come from the oneness. And so this is something that goes beyond our gender, beyond your age. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, or I'm young or old. This goes beyond our gender, beyond time itself, beyond our age, beyond our skin color, our race. Do you think it matters what race I am right now? Do you think it matters for these beautiful truths? We come from the one, the divine love. It goes beyond our races. It goes beyond all of this, our political orientation, our country of origin, patriotism. It goes beyond whether you have a certain thing or don't have a certain thing that so many people are fighting about and want to be so closely identified with, so that they can feel more self-righteous one way or the other. Let go of that stuff. I encourage, that is to infuse courage. I encourage you to let go of all of that. All of that just keeps you in duality. It keeps you divided with each other. I didn't get to see one of my brothers. I drove for 24 hours and I didn't get to see one of my brothers. And I was near his house because he was divided on a certain issue, and it's fine. I respect where he is and how he is. I love him. I love him as I love you. I'm making this because I love you. I have right now like 250 people or some 251, subscribe to me on my YouTube channel. So I'm not doing this in order to impress this large amount of people. I have a little bit, like double that, on Instagram or so, and 4,000 or something on Twitter. I'm aware of these numbers, yes, because I live in a physical body and I'm aware of this. But none of that matters right now. Those are just numbers. What I'm speaking to is far above numbers. It's seek for wisdom, as if you're seeking for gold, as if you're looking for diamonds, as if you're coming across a rare thing, as if it's this pearl of great price, and you are a knower of fine pearls and a searcher for those, because you search true wisdom, true pearls of knowing. A pearl is something that was something else, and through pressure it became a pearl. The diamond is a coal that was pushed down into the ground, and through much pressure it became a diamond. Don't be surprised when you cry and when you experience pain or loneliness or lows or highs, beautiful, beautiful highs that are so touching. They touch you to the core. Like the beauty of me and my friendship with my friend Elliot, like the gift of that, as much pain as I've gone through because of that man and through my experience with that man. I wouldn't trade any of it for the beauty and the light and the consciousness and how I saw that man continue to struggle and continue to create music. Muse, the muse, muse is like the nine muses of Zeus, you know. It comes from the higher realms. We get touched by the muse. It's just, as I understand it, this is all as I understand it in this moment. It will ever be expanding and growing. So never get stuck in how I expand it, and always check with your discernment. If I'm off, it's because I'm misled in a certain area. It's not because I'm meant to be or want to be. I want to be perfectly aligned with love. But this beauty, these truths, they're an aspect of divine love that come from the highest realm. And when you learn more and more to die to your lower self, you become like a clear window, and the sunshine. If God is like the everlasting sun, I read that in a book from the 1100s, I think, just the other day. I think it was Mechilde of Mag. I can't remember the name of her city. Magda. I'm sure I have it in some of my other videos, but you can ask in the comments if someone didn't answer in the comments. But God is the ever-present sun. And so this sun can just, as you learn to stay in the now, which is difficult for us, or all people would do it. You know, we dream about the future, and we're meant to have visions. Without a vision, people perish. And it said, write down that vision. So write down your visions of whatever visions you have, of the high calling that you have. I heard about our gifts. Our gifts are like, there's something that you do naturally that you think other people do naturally, but you do not do it. You know, so write down your visions, and what we want to do is learn how to, and the divine will direct you and help you in this path, because you come from that and you're naturally just drawn back to that. We're all drawn back to that. That is the true beauty. My friendship with Elliot was beautiful. I find all these touching, beautiful moments when you're in the present moment, you know. And so I meditated for over 2 hours so far this morning in order to be able to have a quiet mind to speak to you guys right now with even this, you know. And I've had years and of every day and days and days and days, you know, some days I've missed, but of meditating. And that just means quieting all the outer noise best I can. And I meditate with Christ for the past 4 or 5 years. I have spiritual director, but it doesn't, I welcome, again, this is beyond all religions. I welcome all religions. I don't want to take anything away from your knowing. For me, I have this understanding to keep wanting to align with love. And I was asking my friend Elliot in the vision, in the dream, you know, because it says in the end, people, the young ones will have visions and dream dreams. And anyway, he showed me somehow, or the divine love showed me, and it just felt like my friend Elliot, that it's just like getting the groove back, you know, getting your groove back, getting the groove of the record player arm needle back into the groove so it can read the beautiful music that you are. You are, it says in the scriptures, I can't remember, I think St. Paul wrote this in Ephesians or something. It says it's so silly the way that it's translated. It's so sad because so much is lost. because it's not in the vibrance of aliveness. You are this working art, but it said you are the beauty. You are the beauty. But it says you are, it's translated as God's workmanship, but it's like God's masterpiece. God's poema is the word in Greek. It's poema. You are a poem. You are a song. You are the most beautiful song that was ever you. And so I hear things through songs. And, when I was going, can't I just be shaken back into alignment? But it's like love just draws us back and calls us back, and the light calls us back, like the light of the sun. I have this relationship with the sun because I go and I skate. I roller skate lately in the last few years to the sunset at the beach. I just like, it's like a sacred moment to say goodbye to the sun every day, and as much as I can, I do that. And so the sun is shining on me right now to my left as I'm driving. And I made this reel yesterday. I can add it to this video, of the sun just shining through. I knew it would be beautiful at the end. I didn't walk through that tree yet. I just saw it peeking through, and then it shined, and it shined for all of us. And this is the sun of your soul, of your life. Live in the sun. Live in the sun. What I wanted to talk to you guys about was, I was just in Memphis yesterday, and I went to Sun Studios, and I was just like, of course a sun called me. You know what I mean? Christ is also a sun. And I was talking to this guy Daniel that was working there yesterday, and El means God, like Elliot, and Cher El. I think of my name as Cher, to the divine love. But Danielle, I think that Daniel, my brother's name is that as well. It's I think it's the judgment of God. But Daniel was a prophet of God as well, so he heard from God. So I thought Elliot meant hearing from God, but anyway, it's all aspects, just like Gabriel, Michael, Uriel, the angels, Raphael are of God. They're all aspects of the divine, which is like the Elohim, which the God is one. Anyway, it's a multiplicity that is one. And I mean, I know I'm allowed to release all, but I'm not going to make an 8-hour audio right now. So let's go back to Sun Studios, because what was pressing on my heart about that we can learn about that, and I forgot, Elvis was called the King. Wow. The King, there's a whole city that, and I have to look up the meaning of Memphis, in Egypt, because it has to, I know it has something to do with this king path. I just have a king path and a queen path, because you have a king and a queen in you, because your soul comes from the oneness in the beginning, right? In Genesis, if you look at old ancient teachings, it says the Hebrew is out of Adam's side. Adam is like red earth. Adam was given this flesh at some point, but before that, he's made Adam out of the earth in some way, and then the divine breath breathed into him. He has the spirit in flesh, you see? But Eve was pulled out of Adam's side. And so my mystic understanding of that is we have these masculine and feminine energies within us. But the more we learn to not be in like the distorted masculine and the distorted feminine, and go into the divine masculine and the divine feminine, the more you learn how to click into the groove of that, the freer your life is actually going to be. Because seek first the kingdom of God. The basileia, it's the word in Greek. Basileia is queendom, and so it's a king word, but with a queen meaning. And the king is more like physical form, and queen, I think, is like the idea, but we're mixing in the manifestation in physical form with the higher ideas that we're talking about when I was talking about beauty, the world will be saved by beauty, and songs like Pavel Florensky, I quote Pavel Florensky all the time, where he says, when people create a work of art, they go into the divine realms. Like Rothko went into the divine realms. Van Gogh went into the divine realms, even to create a chair. You know, if I have a drawing, I can put it in here. At Eternity's Gates, he drew that, and then I drew a copy. I drew it. I just was looking at his. I turned it upside down so that my logical brain, I could be, it's a trick to, not a bad trick. It's a trick that I learned from the book How to Draw Using the right side of your brain. It's you turn the drawing upside down so your logical brain can't make sense of it. So my mind doesn't get in the way and say, this is a finger, this is a handkerchief, this is a Van Gogh drawing. It just sees the lines, and I was looking at his and I drew them on my piece of paper, right? And so it's coming in alignment, right? It's a job, it's a struggle. This is my gift to convey this to you in simple words that were hard won by me. I've spent many nights alone crying to get to these truths, and I don't know that I had to be alone, but I kept believing my rejection script, and so that kept me alone for a long time. Even when I was in a marriage, it kept me alone because I was projecting rejection, or I expected rejection, or I provoked rejection. And so I take responsibility for my part now. There's always two people, that you're doing a dance. When you change your dance, everything changes. And so seek first this kingdom, which is the kingdom and the queendom from which you came, from which we are all kings and queens. Once a king or queen in Narnia, always a king or queen. Once we are souls that are here from heaven. I was meditating on this verse, these words. Don't think of it as a verse. Think of it as a verse of a song. All of the verses are verses of a song, and you are a song. Okay, so don't be weirded out. I don't want to get over religious in any way. Religious just means relinking to the divine. So true religion is meant to relink us to the divine. That was a guy named Ted Nottingham reminded me of that. So if we're meant to seek first this kingdom, this queendom, this manifestation of our true kingly and queenly divine nature within us, then it's just, all we're sloughing off is like dead skin. It is dead skin. But if we're attached to it, if I'm really attached to all the dead skin I ever wore, now this is going to get gross, is like, then I'd have all the feet gunk that ever came off when, I had any pedicure. And what if I just kept it in a clear bag and wanted to wear that and on a front pouch? How gross that would be. Like, just decaying, rotting, old feet flesh, there's no need for me to have that. And so what Rumi says. Rumi was a Sufi mystic poet, right? And I went to his grave, and I got all of these visions. When I was at his grave, I wasn't asking for them. His grave is in Turkey, and I heard the most beautiful things in my inner ear, because I listened to the voice of God, how it comes to me, and always use discernment. Check if it aligns with what is actually true. Always check. Anyway, but what Rumi wrote in his writings that I resonated with before his grave, he wrote, do not seek for love, instead seek to remove all the barriers between yourself and love. Something like that, right? Out in this field, I'm looking at a field, there's cows and stuff to my right and left in these fields as I'm driving along right now. I just saw 2 cows on my right, and the sun is to my left, right? And so he says, out in this field, beyond wrongdoing and right doing, I will meet you there. That's where I'm meeting you. Doesn't matter about anything in your past, anything you have done. Be in this now. I invite you to feel the freedom and the joy and the love of being in this now moment with me right now. Who knows why you came across this video, this audio, but be with me in it because I'm meeting you there. And I love to meet you there because I want all people, no matter what old script, old BS belief system you've been playing, you're meant to know love, and you're allowed to know love. And I'm not going to keep it from you. All I want is for people, for love to be poured out in them. But what I found so far, what I found so far is the more we do seek this right, as in the true way, whatever it's like when you apply the truth in your life. Christ said, join with me, and join me in this place where I'm seeking highest love best I can. Christ was seeking love. Join me on this path as we all join together. Oh, I have an expansive view in front of me right now. It's so beautiful. I love it when the environment around, matches what's being conveyed through me. It says Ozarks, Huntsville. I just looked over a place called Huntsville, exit 35. If anyone's driving on the 40 and they want to see the expansive view, I'm going west. I'm heading west back to California. All right, so. Seek first, above all else. C.S. Lewis put it this way: you put first things first, you get second things and first things. When you get that out of order, if I sought running away from the rejection that I insisted I had to feel before, because I thought that was part of my life forever, I thought I was stuck with that. Even if I left my parents, I thought the rejection script was always just, do you miss me, misery, miss misery. I miss MISS period misery. Like Elliot, we had such a deep resonance. I thought that had to be part of my life. And so it's like when you think that, you're attached to that, just like if I was attached to all my dead skin. And so I would be burdened down by that belief system, and it held me back from being my true self. And it held me back from aligning with and knowing the truth of my queen and my king path. The path of the king and the path of the queen. True right wayness, right? Aligning with perfect love. Join me as you learn to die to yourself, your old self. That is just the barriers. They're just these barriers, like dead skin that's keeping you blocked off from love. Why not? Why? Look at what's happened in my life. You can even look back at videos I made 2 years ago and see the difference in who I am. I was always this underneath. You are this. I'm only speaking I am because I am is speaking into existence what you already are, your divine essence. I am love. I am a queen. I am a king. I am on my king path. I am on the path of right wayness. I am on the path of highest love. That's all I want, because I don't want anyone else to know rejection from me. I don't want to be a billboard of rejection. I want to be a love song. I want to be a song of love. You get to be a song of love. Do you want to be a song always of longing for love, which is there, it's this sweet juxtaposition of we long back to be back into this one divine union with divine love, but you can have that now. So I was meditating this morning on this verse, which we can say is like a song, that Christ said, words of high consciousness that were not easily got by Christ. They say that God became man so that man could become God. That is called theosis. Look into it. Metanoia is a metamorphosis of your nous. Nous is like your soul's understanding, like your mind. Sometimes they translate it as mind. But you are a poema, a living work of God. That God, the divine love, the absolute infinite beingness is always calling you back to know more and more love and resurrection power. This is the verse that I'm speaking of right now, is after Christ rose from the dead and he came to the disciples, and Mary Magdalene was the first to see him. There's a saying that Mary, his mother, saw him in a vision and knew that he had rose. But Mary Magdalene went physically and saw him in physical form. You don't have to believe this, but understand it mystically at least. In her tears and in her longing, he said, why dost thou weepest? Whom dost thou seekest? She seeks divine love. She seeks divine love. That is the feminine. If you are men listening to this, understand your soul is like the feminine, and you are meant to be a protector of the feminine. And we lost this in our collective, the patriarchy that has gone along, that has misused your maleness for ego gratification and for using people as objects. You don't have to feel the guilt of that for forever. If you've fallen into that, you've fallen into a lie and a trap, and you can come out of that into the truth right this moment. But you're meant to protect the feminine and be bold and courageous and strong, and not be intimidated by the lies of the enemy that wants to keep you in flesh and keep you in lower things, and not have a high courageous king path, and so think of, if you understand your soul as the feminine. So women, understand your soul as the feminine. And so for me, this is just how I've been going into it, is I'm understanding I have to activate the divine masculine in me, or the divine love. God will always show me. Christ shows me, because he took the form in a masculine body. He shows me what a true king does to honor and honor the feminine and protect the feminine. And he has his purpose in following his higher purpose, whatever the true king path is. But also part of that king path is to protect those under him and be generous to those under him. And so Christ said in this verse, the feminine, Mary Magdalene, saw Christ first in the physical. But he said in this verse, this is a later verse, the disciples were behind closed. Oh, he said to her, this is why she came up, because he says, this is now your father and my father. And mother, it's, the word is like creator. It's like father, mother. It's the progenitor. It's the one from which we came out of. The Native Americans call it the mind womb of God. We came from that. So when Christ says father, you can think of something that is beyond the genders. That's the divine love from which we came. It's like, yes, the baby came out of the mother, but if it wasn't for the father, the mother wouldn't have had the egg and the sperm mixed together. So it came from both. So anyway, and so he said, tell the other disciples, they're all disciples, that my brothers, my sisters, those that I rose from the dead and I am going to be ascended, and all this stuff. And that, it was quick, but she went and she ran back to them. Well, she ran the first time. I'm not sure if she ran this time. There's symbolic, mystical meanings in all of those words. But before it was dawn, she came to the tomb. Before the light of her enlightenment, of her understanding what the resurrection power meant, what it meant. Before she understood, she only was seeing a vision of Christ in the grave. That's what she says, if you have taken him, because when she saw him at first, she was seeing with her earthly eyes. And this is why people can misunderstand all this stuff. Because if we see with our earthly eyes, we only see one thing, until he called her by name. And she said, Rabboni, master, teacher, one who is a master at these things. Not master like I'm a slave, but one who is masterful at these. If you have a triple black belt in jiu-jitsu or taekwondo or jeet kune do, if you're Bruce freaking Lee, I'm going to call you a master in that, Even Christ said, call no man master except, teacher, and accept the divine in heaven. But so I understand that as, or father, or mother, but it's not calling them that, understanding that their masterfulness came from them yielding hours and hours and hours. Like a master at guitar, I know the work that goes into that. Or singing is someone that has yielded hours to developing and cultivating their divine powers. This is an aspect of God that they cultivated, that they had the grace given to them, and the skill and the time they put in to cultivate that into like chiseling a masterpiece out of stone, out of limestone, like Michelangelo or something, or Da Vinci, making a work of art. That's hours put in to become masterful at your craft. All right. So there's respect in that, but you're only calling them master because they are, they have become masterful. Like I have my master's in psychology and my doctorate in psychology because I have spent hours studying this field. Ology is the study of, and psyche is your soul. I've studied the psyche, the soul, because I want to understand it, because I don't want to be misguided back on my soul path, and I don't want to misguide other people. I never want to misguide other people. And so always check, see if it's aligned with the truth, because I'm not perfect, but I look to Christ, so she recognizes him then as in his divine self, and she says, Rabboni, teacher, master at this work of love. What is this mystery I've entered into? How are you here? How are you alive? I don't understand. I don't understand resurrection power. This is what I'm understanding right now in my life. How can I be in my ascended, my resurrected self in this physical earth still? I'm in this physical realm. I accept the reality now. Before, I wanted to escape it because I was so depressed. And I thought I could only know that in heaven. And it was like being that idea of Christian was off. It made me suicidal. And so I welcome you if you've had these dark feelings before. You don't have to have them anymore. Those are gone from me, I understand it as an old pattern of escapism. And so I do my best not to escape in my everyday life so that I don't awaken those old, they're not even, it's like if I was bulimic 30 years ago, it's like I haven't been bulimic. I threw up my food a few times in high school because I felt guilty about what I ate. And I've worked with a lot of people with eating disorders. So I don't know if I had full-blown bulimia or something, but I'm just saying, if it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever, it's like I haven't been indulging in that. It's not even appealing to me. I understand something higher now. And so the lower things just drop away. It's like once I understand, oh, I don't have to carry around my dead foot skin anymore. Like, let's just drop that off right now in the next trash can and it's fine. Bury it in the ground, whatever. The earth will transmute it. That's how beautiful Mother Earth in that way, Earth as, I call it as a mother, not to be hippie or whatever, but it's just like, because all this stuff grows out of it. Like as feminine, we grow things in our womb, we grow ideas too. We're creative, we're creators, all of us are. And so waking up this divine masculine, divine feminine in you and aligning with it. But I was getting to the verse that I was meditating on this morning. Christ said, peace. The word shalom means wholeness, all healed up and healed up. Peace, he said to them again, after they were overjoyed because they saw the nails prints in his hand and the wound in his flesh, but Thomas wasn't there, and he insisted on having to see it in the physical. So don't worry about wherever you are. Faith is about learning. It's a process of learning how to trust in the knowing, not in the knows, in your inner deep soul resonance and knowing. I had to trust in my knowing with Elliot Smith because I was working at a rehab all the time. I mean, at the time that I met him, and he was drinking so much, and I couldn't understand, like, how is this person so conscious and so high in their development, masterful in his understanding of the divine and his union with the divine, and yet still, drinking all the time. Like before, I would have been taught to judge that and disregard and totally dismiss a person like that, because I didn't understand the lies in my own self. Like, I was living that rejection script. I was living a lie just as well as an escapism in my own, you know, spiritual form of escapism that wasn't dealing with real life. But anyway, that verse was peace I bring to you, peace. Well, it was not peace I bring to you. I wish you peace again. I wish you shalom, wholeness. And then, oh yeah, I wrote it down. So good. It says, as the creator, as the divine love, the oneness has sent me. And I didn't look up the word again, but I think the word sent is like like Elliot calling me Angelina, a sent one. It's angelos, means a messenger. The word angel means messenger. So see, he said, as the divine oneness, I'm just going to translate it as I heard it mystically, as the divine oneness, the unification, the divine love, out of love, the creator sent me as a messenger to you, of as a living replica of divine love, a song, beauty of love, always love, as I was sent to you, and I honored that calling and lived it, and died because people couldn't understand that calling, and they chose to kill it because they only saw him as like the gardener. If Mary Magdalene had not risen above and recognized in her higher nature who Christ was, she would have only kept seeing him as the gardener, because she was seeing him in the context of, here's a person at the grave that looks like he's a grave caretaker. Where have you taken his body? She only saw the dead body because she had a deeper knowing, or she wouldn't have poured the perfume that was a year's worth of wages. Imagine taking a year's worth of wages and pouring them out for Christ. I've had the experience of that. Thanks be to our Maker. Thank the Maker. And it was very hard, let me tell you, because it's what I thought was supposed to live on. And it felt like I was being irresponsible, just like that Judas part of us that says, this money could have gone to the poor. Why did she pour it out like this for Christ? And he said, it's for my burial. He had to be prepared. He was divine, and God took care of him. He had to be prepared for his burial. He was Jewish. Like, it was just how you care for the dead in that time. Like, he's going to be cared for. And so she did. But she didn't understand all of that because she thought Christ was still dead. She didn't understand about the resurrection yet. So it's okay that you don't understand about all of these powers. Mystical powers to you unfold. Seek ye the half that has never been told. That's Steel Pulse. Chant a psalm a day. I do a song on that. I'm teaching, but I'm gonna anyway. I gotta get a hold of all these record companies, and now I know how. From yesterday, I learned how. Daniel taught me how. To get permission, because I don't want to sell anything without their permission and paying them their part. But anyway. So Mary couldn't understand until she got back aligned with her divine nature, and he said her name. You are called by name. Your soul has your deep name of God within you. If you look in the mystical book of Revelations, John, the beloved, the mystical saint, talks about a white stone and how your name is on that stone, your God name. Only you and God know that name, because you are a specific aspect of God on this earth for a reason. You're here for a reason and a purpose. Even if it's just to live out who your name is, even if you stayed in your living room the rest of your life, I'm not saying to do that, because we're called maybe to something higher, but to become your name, to welcome your name. My name is Cheryl. To share God instead of, I was Re-Shell in childhood because my friend was Jennifer Checked and I was Re-Cheryl, which was rejection. She was checked and I was because we felt rejected. She was adopted. That was not my real name. but I kept living that name. And I understand if you've been living that name, that is not your name. It's a lie. But we have to go through the lie sometimes to get to the other side. And we have to let that name die, because that is not us. That is not me. That is not you. And I had a hesitation to even record this in an audio, because I was like, no, I want to be in front of the camera. I am no longer hiding behind a camera. I do not hide behind a camera anymore. I mean, behind the camera, because I was afraid to be seen. But this is a different, you make do with what you have. And right now I'm driving, and I don't want to encourage anybody else to use their hands or look at a screen while they're driving. I saw, too many accidents on my way here and on my way back. Already today I saw one, that even if people don't get hurt, even if I'm going to be protected or you're going to be protected, where the law is there to protect people. And so I want to honor that. But still, of course, I'm staring at the road. I'm on one highway. Highway. I have a video I made about Elliot's dancing on the highway. It's this high path, this king path, this queen path I'm talking about. I guess I say we're because I have all of the teachers that have taught me in me. I'm living them. They're pouring forth their love, the light that they worked so hard to get in their life. I read those masters and I teach it to you so that you don't have to be one more minute in your rejection script, So anyway, he said, just as the creator, the divine love, has sent me, and I chose to accept this sending. I chose to be an angel here on earth in physical form, a soul, physical form, and live out love best I could, best I can, Even so, I am. He's saying the I am. This is what your divine nature, I am. This is you. I am sending you. I am angeling you. I am messengering you. You are a message. You are an email. You are a song. You are a vibration of the divine. You are goodness. Goodness is godness. It's just being aligned with perfect love. You are this, right? You are this. And so I was in Sun Studios yesterday in Memphis, the town where Elvis was king, where they were honoring Elvis so many places, everywhere I went pretty much, And so it's because there's some part of our souls, and we desire to worship the divine. And if we don't get in alignment with the kingdom of God, the queendom of God, then we will worship lesser things. But we find out, because when I worship, let's say, a rejection script, because it's familiar and it takes me back to the home that I knew, the crap home of feeling rejected, my brain got a high from going back to feeling rejected. My brain got a literal high, just like if Elliot was doing anything. He didn't do drugs around me, but I saw him drink a lot. You get a high from those substances. My brain was getting a dopamine high from going back to this rejection state, because it's like if I was a baby born on crack or something, my body, my physical body would crave that until they weaned me off of it. And so if I had rejection over and over again, that's my home state. And it's not my true home, though. And so there's always freedom offered us. There's always a way out. I was just watching The Sound of Music with my brother's. He works with challenged people, and so we were watching that, and The Sound of Music, and Maria von Trapp, which I read about her a lot. The real one that they made, that wrote the story that they bought the rights to for like $20. Like, she wasn't paid, but anyway, it doesn't matter now. But she said in the movie, when God closes a door, he always opens a window. And Bob Marley has that in one of his songs. He's singing it. He sings something about when God closes a door, there's always a bigger door open, or some other way. There is. And so there always was, I can see looking back, like a ribbon looking back in my past, that there was always a way for me. There was always a light showing me a way out of that rejection path. But I kept selling out for the lower highs, right? Instead of the true high path. That is our calling, our true calling, the king and queen path. All right. And I was just listening to for an hour. That was part of my meditation. After I was asking the divine love to help me, Christ to help me as well, to understand what resurrection power is instead of rejection power. I've known rejection power long enough. I spit that out because it's no longer palatable to me. Just like being, playing games with my food and trying to get the guilt and the shame out of my body by throwing up food was not working. It was tearing my life apart in that short span that I was doing that, years and years ago. It just hasn't been appealing to me for 20 plus years because I'm 22 now. Anyway, so I was trying to do the math. I'm like, oh, forget it. I know it's at least that. But and so this you are, we already have a purpose. You can embrace this purpose with me if you'd like to. If not, I don't mind. Be where you are. Be where you are. Stop rejecting yourself where you are, right? The only way we can change is to accept ourselves where we are, not as our parents defined us, because they were looking in a mirror. When they put us down and said, you're no good for nothing, and I'm not going to, even when they did that by their actions of not offering affection and warmth and holding and all the holding that I wanted so badly in childhood, the part of that I didn't get, I'm not saying I wasn't held, but oh, it's 10:21 right now. I often see 10:21. That's the day that Elliot passed, and I also miscarried a child a year later after that. But there's also beautiful things. I see it as a door closing and another one opening, just like we were just talking about. Knowing this resurrection power, living in your resurrection self, your divine self, instead of your rejection self, right? What we want to call this, living in resurrection, not rejection. Perhaps I'll call it that, or your true king queen path, or whatever. But so Elvis was a king, and what I learned from Elvis yesterday when I was at Sun Studios, because the sun shines. The sun is like the light of God that shines on our path and shows us which way to go. The sun will keep shining in you and through other people that are yielded to the divine, because they are like a window. Truly yielded people are like a window. You will know them by their fruit. They have good fruit, not pretend fruit that they painted on, said, oh, I slapped a fish on that. That makes me a Christian or a true Buddhist or whatever, okay? You'll know them by their fruit, right? And I was thinking of the word rose because I saw a vision where I was going to have many roses around me. Like people are going to bring me roses and put roses. This will sound weird, but on a stage, wherever I'm speaking or singing or wherever it is, because rose is resurrection. I just entered Oklahoma. Rose is resurrection power. I rose. He rose from the dead. They couldn't understand the mystery of the rose. So anyway, take that or leave that. I don't mind. I just have it as a vision. It doesn't matter if it happens when I'm 80 or 90 or whatever. I'm not holding on to what time or another lifetime, if there's such thing, whatever. But I trust in the knowing, not the knows. The knows, your logical brain are saying, no, that can't happen. There can't be a king path for me. There can't be a queen path for me. I can't leave this shame of my past. I have to carry it for my family. I have to carry it for my dad so that my dad doesn't see his own bad, because he thought he was going to die if he carried any of his own dad. Because I'm talking about for my dad, but it can be for your dad too. My dad was expected to have perfection, and so he learned to just deny any bad in him because he would just feel ashamed and feel like his dad would reject him if he had any bad. And so I learned how to adapt to take his bad on, but I was carrying all this shame and feeling rejected all the time. and I would just show people this shame. And anyway, no wonder you had this rejection, or I had this rejection script. I'm telling you right now, you are free. You're free. You no longer have to keep going back to that high. That's like having a toxic relationship. And I kept going back to a toxic relationship. And let me tell you, right? Just some of the beauty and the magic of everything that's happening. Sit out in the sun, and the sun takes the mud and turns it dry so the dirt can just flake off of you. So you, this muddy shirt that you have, you can just crack it when the sun dries it up. In the light of the sun, you don't know the power of grace to heal you from these old patterns. And so last night at 1 a.m, right, I was going to bed before my drive so I would be rested enough so I wouldn't, so I would be awake and an alert driver. And so this guy wrote me that I don't know, but he saw my reel and he wrote to me and he said, "You are a beautiful person and you have so much light shining through you," right? Guess what this guy's name was? I won't tell you his name, but someone that broke my heart about 2 years ago, around 10/21. It was actually on 10/21 that my heart was broken. But, I was in rejection energy, so that person must also have been. So I understand it now. I wasn't in my king and my queen where I would protect this woman. I'd be like, walk on, and then my mind knew to walk on, but my heart was in the brokenness because it just wanted to keep feeling rejection, I guess, because that's what was home in childhood. So I would pick someone or provoke them or project them or just pick someone that knew how to reject really well because he rejected his own self. His name, and I won't say his name, his name is the same name as the name of the guy that said, "You are beautiful," last night. He said, "You are beautiful." And this light just pours through you and shines through you. And so it only took 2 years for someone, it doesn't have to be that same guy, it's some other male as a messenger of divine love. It's anyone that cleans out, that lets the divine love pours the sunshine through them so that you can be this window so that the light can shine more clearly through you like a diamond. Some male came through and spoke those kind, loving, honest, sincere words to me last night. And I was like just smiling in my heart, like, of course this person's name is that, of course. And I have another person in my life whose name is that same exact name. And a few months back, he said to me, "Cheryl, I love you with all my heart. I love you with all my heart." And he meant it. And he does. And so it's like, how strange is it, if someone that broke your heart, like I was listening to this Dirks Bentley song just now called Riser. It's so good. He's like, "I'm a riser. I'm a get up off the ground. Don't run and hide her. Don't hide your soul. Don't hide the feminine. Protect her." He said, I won't get into so many of his lyrics because I don't want to try to get a hold of his agency right now, but it's a beautiful song. He's talking, the whole masculine in this song is about how to wake up. He says, "I'll pray till Jesus rolls away the stone." You know, there's part of him in that song yielding to the divine because the divine grace will do the rest of the work. You work with 100% of you, and that might do 5% of the work, and then the divine will do 95% of the work. But you got to work with every ounce of your being. I have had to give everything and face death, like literal death. And I'm not saying to be reckless, but I've had to face death over and over and over and thinking, I'm going to die if I do this. I'm giving my last piece of bread and what I have to sustain my child, like the widow in the Old Testament to Elijah. What I have to sustain my child, I'm giving this first part to divine. And so what if I can't sustain my children, I had to face that, and it's really painful. But it's like, yeah, it helps me grow. That's what faith is. Without faith, all of this is not possible. It's impossible. I'm possible with faith. And faith is trusting in your knowing and not your nose. I learned that from Lima. Her last name is Lima. Um, Jamie. Her name is Jamie Kern Lima. She invented it makeup. I learned from a conference I was at, a Tony Robbins conference. Tony Robbins, I don't know about his past. I won't look into that. I know what he's taught me about the king path and the queen path. And I know he knows about that. So he's a master in certain areas. And anyway, I learned from a beautiful Unleash the Power Within seminar that he was putting on, where he invited this beautiful woman, Jamie Kern, to speak. I learn about people from people who have learned through suffering. She said, don't trust the no's. She got so many rejections. You have to learn how to die to your rejection script. It is a high, I tell you. It's just like when they give rats the choice between sugar and cocaine, the rats go to sugar, okay, you guys? And so, oh, my earbuds are running out. I'm going to wrap this up. So what they told me at that Sun Studios. Okay, so just know that you have a dopamine high when you run to this old rejection script. You get a high from it. You have to learn how to detox like you're getting off a drug. It took me 30 days of following this woman named Latoya Okia's Beast Mode class, because she said this is how she did it, and I'm like, I'm doing that. I had to not have conversations with my friends for 30 days. Unless they were only my friend Rochelle and some other people that were only uplifting because they're on the divine path and I know they're committed to it, right? And so it's like, oh, no wonder I haven't eaten yet today, and I didn't know why. I was just drinking water. So it's like a fast so far that I was called to without even knowing it. But anyway, for 30 days, I didn't watch movies or TV or listen to the radio, even songs, unless they were truly uplifting, encouraging, infusing courage, not fake ones. Anyway, I won't talk about that. But the guy, Daniel, yesterday, said that Elvis saved up. He had, it cost $35 to record 2 songs, I think, in that studio, in Sun Studio, right? And so it took him just 6 months. 6 months, you guys, 6 months of saving for $35 for him to come in, when I forgot the name of that guy. Oh, I wrote it down yesterday. Samuel, or it starts with an S, I think. Phillips is his last name. When he wasn't in the office, and so the woman assistant there helped Elvis record, and it was this song about longing. This beautiful song. I got to hear that first recording, and it just lit a fire back under me. It's to keep walking in my purpose, because my purpose now has something to do with music and songs and therapy. The word therapy means healing through music, because we are music. And I was so inspired by Elvis, I welcome that he called himself the king, because part of him had this soul longing and soul awareness that he was on a king path. But you can get lost along the way. So don't get lost along the way. I'm going to do my best to stay on this king and queen path. To be a king to myself, to go, oh no, girl, you deserve to date a king. You do not deserve to date these rejection people. They can stay in their rejection script. That's fine. That's on them. Love them. And I felt such a joy that I could keep praying for that person that I loved so deeply in my heart. All the people all my exes live in Texas, right? I grew up in Dallas. All the people, the men and the women friends that I've, come and gone. That's in a Stir It Up song, Bob Marley. From all the good people we've met. Anyway, my heart can be open because I'm in true forgiveness, because I don't need them to love me anymore. When you're in a rejection script, you're constantly in lack, and you're always looking for approval, and you sell out for the stupidest things. Like Latoya Okia says, like, I dance for the devil, and it's like, why not dance for this high path of high love, this high calling? Why not get in line and do whatever love calls you to do? But use discernment, ask for wisdom, ask for discernment to discern what is the true path of love, because the forces, or whatever we call it, come disguised as an angel of light. I talked to a musician that I know, and he knows this other musician that was in the Christian industry, and he said he'd never seen so much corruption, not in all the rock bands, like, rock bands that he followed, that were like having women all over the place. He never saw so much corruption as he did in the Christian music industry. I don't know how it is now. I'm not talking down on it. I'm just saying something can just call itself of Christ, and it doesn't mean of divine love. He says, when you walk this path, then you will know it. I've had to walk it by weaning off that rejection path and feeling really low, and that I wasn't going to have a high, because you keep trying to control it by the highs that you bring to yourself. And I knew how to bring rejection to myself. I knew how to keep stirring that up and feeling that and listening to songs that made me feel rejected. And so I encourage you, right? I love you so much. I'm going to put pictures of Memphis, I think, on this. And it was my grandmother's 100th birthday on Thanksgiving Day the other day. Doesn't matter what time you're getting this because it was resonating with the vibrance of your soul. Good vibes. Watch my good vibes video, right? Our God vibes. They're divine love vibes. Don't let someone rob you by them misusing the name of God for you getting in alignment with perfect love. I wish you so much love. I'm so glad you traveled with me in this, and I'm so glad Elvis saved all that money to make his music. I wish you so much love. I'm gonna wait till this gets into the sevens. Their address was 706, and I said to Daniel, I was like, wow, that's like the divine and the number of the man. Who's going to win, the divine or the man in us? How do we live with both the divine and the man? How do we live in that? It's a mystery to enter in. I wish you love.